If you're trying dopamine detox and you're not getting the results that you want, or you don't know if this is going to work, this video is for you. I'm sure that dopamine detox is not a scientific method, and I believe it was an attempt to solve a problem without analyzing it first. If you're doing dopamine detox, it means that you shouldn't do certain things for a period of time. There is no consensus about the time or the types of activities, and it's totally subjective. Some people do 1 or 3 days, and others try 2 or 3 weeks. The activities are pretty much flexible. For example, some people will stop using social media, the internet, video games, and porn, but others remove relationships, exercise, and sex. And even some people can't do anything except drink water. So here's my issue. I don't understand which problem this is going to solve. I'm not saying all version of this practice is useless or harmful. Actually, I think if you avoid extreme cases and try a balanced version, it has some benefits. However, if you have an impulsive behavior of scrolling your social media over and over again, avoiding some activities and doing nothing for 24 hours or even a week does not fix your behavior. This is where I have a problem with practices like dopamine detox, which can cause misunderstanding and some deeper behavioral problems. If you look at the name, by now I think everybody knows that they can detox from dopamine, but then they say it's not fasting from dopamine, but what you're doing is fasting from
the substances or the behaviors that cause a release of dopamine in the reward pathway.
In this situation, people would go online and search for the things that increase dopamine, and they try to detox from these activities, like some dudes who said to New York Times in 2019 that when he dopamine detox, he would not be eating or exercising, he would not touch others for any reason, especially not for sex, no work and no eye contact. And somewhere he told them it's really easy because it is basically a fast of everything, and the number of things not to do is potentially endless. I'm okay with not using social media or the internet, but it's completely not okay to advise people not to socialize and not exercise. It actually gives a negative sense that these activities aren't good. In some behavioral problems, exercising is a game changer because it would make your mesocortical pathway stronger than your mesolimbic pathway. In addition, it helps you develop skills that shift your decision making from low effort, low reward to high effort, high reward, and it's a practice for developing delayed gratification. The other false message is that we should avoid activities that increase dopamine because they are addictive. When you do a fun activity over and over again in a short period of time, gradually it becomes boring and it's not fun anymore. For example, if you play a video game 24/7, it's become boring after 3 or 4 days. There is a reason that we experience this. There's a system called homeostasis which maintains the balance in our body. Now, when you do an activity that releases a neurotransmitter like dopamine that activates postsynaptic neurons for a long time, homeostasis kicks in to reduce this activity by reducing the dopamine receptors on the postsynaptic neurons. So even though you have a high level of dopamine in your synaptic cleft, there are not enough dopamine receptors to activate the postsynaptic neurons. But if you stop doing this activity for some time, the postsynaptic neurons reset the level of dopamine receptors and you can enjoy the activity again. That's why all people won't eat or drink themselves to death by chocolate or alcohol, because there are regulatory mechanisms in your brain. So the question is, why do some people get addicted to certain things like smartphones, porn, or cocaine if we have a regulatory mechanism in our bodies? Normally, people would stop when homeostasis kicks in, but some people would continue pushing the same behavior strangely. If you have impulsive behavior like you scroll social media for 7 hours without enjoying it, but you do it anyway, there's an underlying problem. To understand this, first, you need to know that there are many types of learning, but there are 2 crucial types related to what we're talking about. One is called operant conditioning or instrumental conditioning, in which we learn based on reward and punishment. You eat chocolate and it's delicious, so you would do it again. You put your hands on fire and it hurts, so you won't do it again. There's another learning process called classical conditioning or Pavlovian learning, which is a behavioral procedure in which a biologically potent stimulus is paired with a previously neutral stimulus. For example, food for an animal is a reward. A dog would drool when they see meat. Now, if you introduce another stimulus like ringing a bell before you give them food, ringing the bell would become a conditioned stimulus. From now on, if you ring the bell, the dog would drool. This mechanism is always happening in our life. Imagine you have a rough day and you eat a cake, which makes you feel good. If this happens a couple of times, the stress from the rough day would pair with the chocolate cake. After that, if you experience another situation in which you get anxious, you eat chocolate cake, because eating chocolate cake becomes a coping mechanism to deal with the stress and anxiety. In this situation, if homeostasis kicks in, these people with bad coping mechanism push beyond this level. They know the chocolate cake is bad for them and they don't enjoy eating them anymore, but they continue to eat because there is an underlying problem they're trying to solve. That's the same mechanism that happens when you automatically look for a smartphone in social distress, and the same mechanism happens when people abuse substances. In this situation, dopamine detox is not helpful at all. It doesn't solve your problems because it's the same view that we have on drugs and addiction.